The silence of the forgotten. In the heart of a once bustling amusement park known as Whimsy World, laughter echoed off the roller coasters, and the sweet smell of cotton candy filled the air. But that was years ago. Now, the park lay abandoned, a ghost of its former self, with weeds crawling through the cracked pavement and rust overtaking the once vibrant carnival rides. The mascots, colorful creatures that had once roamed the park to entertain children, were nowhere to be found. Their absence sent a chill deeper than the cold autumn wind. Emily, a thrill-seeker in her early 20s, had heard the urban legends surrounding Whimsy World, stories of missing mascots and the apparitions of beloved characters who had mysteriously vanished. Some said they had been spirited away by a malevolent force, while others claimed the park was simply cursed. Drawn by her zest for adventure and the allure of the unknown, Emily gathered her friends, Mark and Sarah, for an excursion into the park long thought to be haunted. The trio entered through a gaping hole in the fence, the moonlight casting eerie shadows that danced across the overgrown landscape. Their flashlights flickered in the darkness as they navigated past the wobbly Ferris wheel and towards the main plaza, where once bustling crowds had flocked to meet their favorite characters. Ghostly remnants of a faded sign hung limply above the entrance, the letters spelling Whimsy World, barely legible beneath layers of mildew. "Let's split up to see if we can find any old costumes or memorabilia," Emily suggested, her heart racing with excitement. Mark and Sarah hesitated but eventually agreed, an uneasy tension settling upon their hearts. "Meet back at the old game booth in an hour," Mark said, glancing nervously around. The friends departed into the shadows, leaving Emily to wander deeper into abandoned hallways with peeling paint and broken mirrors. The silence was palpable, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Each creak of the floorboards beneath her feet pulled her further into an unsettling trance. As she wandered, she stumbled upon a dilapidated building marked Costume Storage. Intrigued, she entered, her flashlight illuminating racks filled with dusty, tattered costumes of characters that once elicited joy. But as she examined the costumes, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. There were no smiles on the faces of the characters, no twinkling eyes, just empty mouths that seemed to whisper secrets of horror. Suddenly, shadows flickered. Emily paused, her breath catching in her throat. From the corner of her eye, she saw a flash of color, a glimpse of a mascot's head with its eyes hollowed out. Fueled by panic, she dashed toward the exit, but the door creaked shut, seemingly trapping her within the nightmarish world. Heart racing, she pounded on the door. "Mark, Sarah." Silence engulfed her. The shadows multiplied, swirling around her in a grotesque dance. "Get away from me," she screamed, backing into the storage room. Out of the corner of her eye, something stirred. The upper half of a yellow and blue costume resembling a cheerful clown moved toward her. Its mouth twisted into a grin far too wide. "Care to play?" it echoed, the voice unmistakably warped. Emily recoiled, knowing they had crossed a line that should not have been crossed. Meanwhile, Mark and Sarah, losing track of time, found themselves together in the game booth. The air grew colder, and static filled the silence. "Do you hear that?" Sarah whispered, fear lacing her voice. Just as they began to contemplate searching for Emily, a figure galloped toward them, wearing a dilapidated bear costume with dark, hollow eyes. "Come play," it growled, its voice deep and menacing, the hidden malice crawling beneath its once joyful charm. The bear lunged at them, and they barely escaped, bolting through the nearest exit. "Where's Emily?" Mark shouted, the dread of losing their friend settling in. As they stammered through the endless pathways, the mascots, horrific shadows of their former selves, began to materialize around them, barring their way. The characters they had once loved were twisted into grotesque shells that seemed to suck the joy from the very air they breathed. They pushed through the haunted maze until they reached the costume storage building. The door creaked open, only to reveal the horror that awaited them inside. Emily lay unconscious amidst the remnants of the forgotten mascots, her body twisted in a way that spoke of torment. "Help!" she murmured, her eyes fluttering open just as the mascots began closing in around them. Mark and Sarah rushed to her side, but pulling her away only invited the wrath of the creatures. They had been waiting for new joy to eclipse the darkness within, to absorb what little light remained in their hearts. In the struggle, Sarah fell, her scream piercing the air as the bear lunged for her. Mark reached out, desperately gripping her hand, but the shadows engulfed her, leaving him alone with the embodiment of his worst fears. The last thing he saw was Emily's frightened face as the mascots began to engulf the two, whispering insidiously, "No one escapes the joyless." Quote, as dawn broke over Whimsy World, the park remained silent. The wind would carry the whispers of laughter from the past, but now, it whispered of terror, of missing friends, of mascots forgotten and lost in the shadows, forever bound to their misery.